Welcome to Running on Ice, the coolest community in freight. I'm your host, Mary O'Connell, bringing you the latest tech updates, warehouse news, and everything happening in the cold chain world. Not only is there the coolest show in freight, but there's also Running on Ice, the newsletter that couldn't be colder. You can subscribe to that on freightwaves.com/running on ice. Today, we welcome Chris Skraba, Vice President of Business Development, Global Integrated Solutions at Lineage. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chris.
Hey, Mary, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
This is something, our topic today, I don't think we've talked about ever on the show, which is impressive because we've had over 150 episodes. And the fact that we're still hitting some new innovative topics is just, what a way to also have that be our first time that we have Lineage on the show, like innovation after innovation. I'm really excited about it. Before we get too far into that though, let's get some background on you and how you got started at Lineage.
Sure. So I was actually giving this some thought the other day. I've been in logistics for darn near half my life, whether that's because I love it or I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess, but certainly a lifer here. And I started in transportation right out of college. I went to work for a dry freight 3PL. Decided to try my hand being a young, eager outdoor salesperson and, did that for a few years and had the opportunity with that company to move up to San Francisco and run our office there. And then I did that for a few years. And then I came into cold chain. So I went to work for a company called Preferred Freezer Services. It was a really large, reputable cold storage provider, primarily focusing on port-centric operations. And we had a really big, robust warehousing business. And we wanted to try and build out and expand our transportation service offerings for our customers. So I came to that company and I worked there for 10 years. And then in 2019, Lineage acquired Preferred Freezer. And during that acquisition, Lineage became the largest temperature-controlled warehousing company in the world, which was really awesome to be a part of. And I've been with Lineage ever since. So since 2019, I've had a few roles here. I started in the transportation integrated solution space, which is really everything we do that's not warehousing is the easiest way to quantify global integrated solutions. So you think about all the supply chain service offerings, right? Whether it be like freight forwarding and VOCC, customs brokerage, consolidation, what we're talking about today, and a host of various other things that we offer. Then I also spent a couple years running a few of our warehouse regions, so experience on the warehouse side of the business as well. And then about a year and a half ago, came back into the integrated solution space here with Lineage.
I like that you also have a very similar story to a lot of people in logistics, which is you just kind of have you not necessarily happened into it, but like you're in it now and you can't leave because it's just, I've noticed that the second that you're in logistics, it's just, you stay here now. Like I left to go sell kitchen cabinets. And then after I was done with that, they were like, logistics was like, no, come back. And, you're stuck here years and years and years later.
That's it. But I love every minute of it, right? It wouldn't change.
It's just there's always something new. There's always something different. And I just it's just like it's like a chaos, but like a fun chaos,
Yeah. Something new every day. Never a dull moment, that's for sure.
So getting back to our topic of today, it's that multi-vendor consolidation. So let's take a step back and look at that big picture. What kind of unique supply chain challenges are retailers, food service companies, other people that heavily rely on the cold chain? What are some of those unique supply chain challenges that exist?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. Retail and food service has always had a lot of complexity around it, but the current environment has made it much more difficult. And I think a lot of that is macro driven, right? And if I'm going to start somewhere with what I would say the largest challenge is really just understanding consumer demand, right? It's become harder and harder to predict over the past 4 or 5 years. And really, food has historically seen really predictable seasonality and order patterns, right? When it's hot outside, people buy more ice cream. When it's holiday season, you sell more food. They're getting ready to host dinners, or summertime and you're doing your grilling, whatever it may be. But since 2019 and COVID, really all that seasonality went out the window. Everybody bought a whole bunch of food and demand was high. And then you saw a little bit of a downturn or a sizable downturn in that. And then it's starting to come back. But if you're a retailer or a food service company trying to understand and know what to buy, how much to buy, when to buy it, becomes a bigger and bigger challenge. And then you also have a lot of things, we'll talk about macro in a minute, but you have some things that I think most people would never think about. Like, have you tried to buy cottage cheese lately by chance?
No, but I did see a couple months ago that there's like apparently it like blew up on it like cottage cheese blew up on the internet and so now people are like clamoring for cottage cheese at the grocery store and I'm like that's a really weird thing to be so heavily invested in.
Yeah, thanks TikTok, right? Just driving global supply chain challenges from a viral post, right? But it's just really unique when you peel some of the layers back and you think about what can really impact the supply chain and demand. Um, and it's just interesting to see those type of social media factors playing a role in this. But if you get back to the more air quote serious right macro issues that we're facing, I think tariffs are playing a big role in this, or at least the threat of those. They're influencing when suppliers produce food or when they import food. You get an influx to beat tariffs, and then you have to sell through that inventory before you restock. It's also causing retailers and food service providers to maybe question when they're going to buy or what reorder replenishment patterns look like. Then you layer in, your online ordering and your D2C, which comes with a whole different, unique set of challenges from a supply chain standpoint. And I think lastly, something that's near and dear to everybody's heart is really just inflation and the rising cost of everything in the world. Whether you're talking about fuel to make a truck run or the cost of the truck or the labor of the driver or the cost of your raw material or what it takes to produce that. And as that cost makes its way through the supply chain, ultimately to the price point on the shelf, it changes how consumers behave, right? What are you going to buy? Are you going to treat yourself and your family to that extra splurge item, or are you just going to stick with staples? And all of these factors really drive decisions of the retailers and food service companies to say, again, how much am I going to buy? When am I going to buy it? And you couple that with their very strict order or delivery requirements from a service level standpoint, and managing those ebbs and flows is really, really difficult without consistency.
Absolutely. The as a back in my former freight broker days, anytime you were saying, "Oh, you have to go to a grocery warehouse or you have to go to do anything with perishable food," the amount of times I just got hung up on by the time the grow of grocery got out, it was just like click and you're like, "Ah, this is going to be a bad day." But it's true because there are so many different like rules and policies and everything like that. And then also on the demand side of things as a shipper, when you're sitting there trying to plan things out and say, okay, well, like, what is my growth looking like for this year? What does that forecasting number look like? Nobody can forecast. I know it's like silly, but it's a real thing. Nobody can forecast what TikTok is going to say. Hey, everybody should go out and get something. Because I mean, obviously, everyone would love to have that kind of like record breaking demand, but also at the same time, you can't just like carry a bunch of extra stock just in case you get popular on TikTok because they've decided that cottage cheese is the thing of the moment.
Yeah, without a doubt, right? Carrying cost is a real thing. Working capital is a real thing. Interest rates are a real thing, and all of that plays a big factor.
And you never would have thought that social media was going to be such a huge impact. But anyway, so for those that aren't necessarily familiar, can you break down what a multi-vendor consolidation is and how it works? Like what it looks like at the big picture, when it's advantageous to take advantage of it. What are we working with here?
Yeah, so great question. So really, at its core, multi-vendor consolidation is just a logistics model where you're going to have multiple LTL shippers share the benefits of pooling their freight to ride on optimized truckloads, right? And the ultimate goal there is to reduce cost, eliminate risk, and drive consistency. So anytime a shipper wants to be able to have predictability in their delivery patterns or schedules, or take advantage of truckload economics for less than truckload orders, multi-vendor consolidation really gives you the ability to solve for that. So at its most macro level, it's just taking like shippers that are going to common retailer or food service distribution centers, putting those LTL orders together and shipping them in the most efficient manner. So if you think about how that works from an operational standpoint, you find a consolidator who's going to typically have, a network of strategically located warehouses around the country or whatever geographic region that they're servicing. And we're going to ask the customers that participate in those programs to stock a certain level of inventory with us. And that will vary based on their turns, their throughput, the seasonality challenges that they face, whatever it may be. And we ship everything on a fixed sailing schedule to give that consistency. So when you're in the program, we have a certain day that we need to receive all of your outbound orders by, and we'll take those POs as our customers receive them from their customers, right, the ultimate consignee, and we'll start to aggregate all of those together, and we work to build the most optimal outbound truckloads that we can. And if we get it right, we're pooling the freight together, and we have enough density and scale to say, from our consolidation location, we're going to create a one pick, one drop truckload that goes to one specific retailer food service distribution center to eliminate risk, drive cold chain integrity, and ultimately lower cost for our customers.
And I think that that is something that, as we're playing right into my former wheelhouse here, as an LTO pricing and procurement girl, it's just kind of, I don't want to say it's mind blowing, but it's just kind of like a, how have we made it this far without exploring these opportunities when we would have shippers, or when we would just get that perfect shipper, that sales would just be like, hey, FYI, here's someone I'm talking to. And then you would see it and it would fit beautifully into a consolidation network. And you're like, do everything in your power to get them to say yes, because this will work out so nicely for me. And those are the times where I was like, sales, I don't care what you have to do, get them. But, but it is true because there is so many. The what?
I said, please, please get me the freight, right? Whatever.
Exactly. That's when it's like, I don't care how much margin you have to cut. Like, this is going to work out. This is going to fill it out nicely. But no, it's something that it's when you sit there and you kind of explain it to the shippers of, okay, well, this is what it's going to do. It's kind of that moment of confusion until you're like, just trust me, it'll be okay. You'll get there. And then after a little bit, they're like, oh, actually, this makes a lot more sense. This makes things much more efficient. I'm not having to deal with as much, running things all around the country. I just have kind of like a centralized location, and it cuts down on costs, and I absolutely love that. And I wish more people did it, you know?
Yeah, no, tons of upside, tons of consistency, helps everybody that touches every component of the supply chain. And when you can give the ultimate customer, your customer's customer, reliability and high service levels, it's a win for everybody.
So one of the things that because I did it with dry van, which is much easier than obviously everything that lives in the cold world. So how does that work when it comes to, like, you have this giant puzzle in front of you and you're sitting there trying to piece everything together, but not only do you have to deal with like kind of networks that look the same or similar footprints, but you also have to deal with the temperature controlled aspect of it. So kind of what does that look like when you're sitting there saying, okay, well, these all have to be frozen or these all have to be refrigerated? Is that a factor that plays into you guys, or is that something that you're like, don't worry about, that's second nature to us because we're cold chain legends?
Mary, I'm going to tell you, it's a little bit of a blend just because of the mix of commodities that we deal with at Lineage. The vast majority of what we store is frozen, but we do have a decent amount of freight that we move throughout our warehousing network and in our consolidation programs that comes with a chilled requirement. So we've set up specific nodes within our consolidation network to be able to support multi-temp shipments from a consolidation standpoint. So really it comes down to the network optimization and engineering work that we do with our customers to understand, where are you producing, how many co-manufacturers do you have, where are you trying to go, and let's put it in one of our buildings where we've started to build scale to support multi-temp consolidation. So as we look forward, and I think as you look kind of consumer demand as well, you're seeing an increase in the amount of chilled commodities that are wanting to move through a program like this. So it's pretty darn easy for us to say, we've got this network that exists today. Let's just start going after more of the chilled stuff to build the density, and then the rest, just runs through the network that we've already got established.
I guess that makes a lot of sense because you do have all of that at your disposal. And I mean, now you're able to do multiple temperatures on a trailer. So that's less of a, oh, I need to find a bunch of frozen things that's going to fit out this density. There are some fancy trailers that allow you to have different compartments, which is completely fascinating to me that that's like a thing that you can do. And it's just like you read it and you're just like, this is insane. But then you see it in action and you're like, it's doing, like, there's frozen, there's refrigerated, there's like room temp, and like the science, man, science.
That's a really big component of what we do in our food service business, our dedicated model. And that tri-tip requirement is a real thing. And it's really cool to see that specialized equipment, in use and how effective it can be for customers and their supply chain.
Yeah. In my mind, like a restaurant's getting a delivery of like ice cream, like meat, and then like bread, which I'm sure is a very real thing. But in my mind, that just is just like a really cool delivery of just like boop, 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 boop. But anyway, so getting back away from random restaurant deliveries, but back into the multi-vendor consolidation, what, um, what are some of the examples that you guys have seen of maybe a supply chain that's running okay and it's doing its best and they're doing their best, but then they kind of get into this type of program and they're having, faster deliveries, less late pickups, less late deliveries. They're seeing those transportation costs fall and they're seeing the improved service from their carrier or their other partners. What are some of those example stories? Where do you get some of those wins that finally is like that light bulb moment that your customers like, oh, actually, this is the best idea we've had in a very long time?
Yeah. So, if we look at our network, I think there's two types of examples. One are the customers that don't know any better and they're brand new to retail and they just take the advice of whoever happened to tell them and they say, let me go seek out somebody that can help with consolidation. And we plug them right in and you immediately see that benefit. But when we look at shippers that have current retail or food service business, it's either customers that want to scale, but know that there's a lot of challenges with scaling. And maybe it's adding SKUs, adding retailers to their portfolio, whatever it may be. Or it's companies that have had tremendous success very quickly with retail and food service sales, and they never had a chance to even optimize their network. So we'll take a look at who's storing within our warehouses or when we're going out talking to potential new customers, right? And we'll start to understand what their data looks like, what the flows look like, and we'll look at where that product is produced. What does the inbound cost look like? What does the optimal outbound cost look like? What are you trying to solve for today? How much more do you want to grow? And when you take them out of that traditional LTL model and you put them on something that can give them predictability and consistency, you see reduced claims, you see better on time delivery, you see better in full because their inventory is consolidated in all the right places, and just much more consistency and reliability throughout the entire process. And that's really where the wins come from.
So I guess when you guys, one of the things that I just thought of while you were mentioning the some of the inefficiencies that you'll find for those customers that maybe have grown very quickly and haven't had a chance to optimize. Have you ever come across one that you're like, oh, sweet summer child, how have you been surviving so far, like in your life? Like, how is this a real network?
Yes, without a doubt. It's almost the same reaction that you mentioned that you had when you found the perfect freight. It's just like you look at somebody's data and their network and you go, oh my goodness, like this is ripe for opportunity for improvement and efficiency gains, right? And we love those just as much as we love the challenging ones that are a little bit harder to solve for because of the immediate value that you can provide to somebody. And when you see their costs go down, the reliability go up, the reduction of penalties that they're seeing from their consignees or their customers, and they just really realize the benefit and the value of an optimized network. It's really cool to see how quickly you can move the needle on something that has a lot of scale to it.
Not that the hard ones aren't fun, but sometimes those giant like messes that you get, you're like, "Oh, this is gonna be easy." Well, I say easy, but then there's always some problems that come up and you're like, "This was not as easy as we thought." But there's always those quick wins to say like, "Hey, like we do deliver on what we say we're going to do and we're delivering quite quickly because turns out we got you. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, I love that. And one of the biggest things that we see when we do this right for customers, especially in a network that might be a little bit messy, is just true inventory rationalization. And they realize how much more they're spending carrying more than they need, or you're carrying too many SKUs or whatever it may be. So to be able to use our data science and our technology and our network optimization models to say, not only is here the logistics, or here's the logistics and transportation portion of your solution, but here's also how you can better manage your business holistically. That's a really cool result.
Yeah, that's kind of a like, not only did we kind of improve this, but here's some feedback back to you that's going to truly make it what I like to call a good partnership, where it's, the information and the help is going both ways. Before we have a couple minutes left, and before we get to the best question of the day, I would like to know, what's your one piece of advice to those cold chain shippers, considering trying out a multi vendor consolidation or just looking for ways to improve their reliability in their network?
Yeah, I think my one piece of advice would be take a look at your business today and don't find a provider that can solve for that. Find a provider that's going to be able to help you solve for where you want to be 3 to 5 years from now. Factor in your growth. I mean, we all know how hard it is and the complexities that come with moving inventories, changing warehouse providers, setting up a network. And nothing is worse than doing all of that work and putting that in place and then having your commercial team go deliver a heck of a brand new deal and it doesn't fit the model you just implemented. You got to pick it up and move it all over again or solve for a one-off. So find a provider that's got scale, that has the asset footprint in place from a consolidation node standpoint that can immediately help you implement and fuel that growth. But then also somebody that's got a technical background inside to that, or part of their service offering, where you can do the network optimization. You can take a look from a data science standpoint at what optimal truly looks like as you scale, and then also has the ability to implement and execute that for the customers. So solve for the future and do it with a provider that's already set up to handle it for you.
I really like that solution. And because it makes sense, because you want to solve for now, but also you don't want to solve your problem and then be stunted by your partner's opportunities. You want to have someone that's able to grow with you and be invested in with you. And that's something that I will continue to beat that dead horse on is, make sure you're choosing partners that are willing to grow with you and are invested in your success like they are in their own. That being said, speaking of success, depending on your answer to this question, it could be a successful answer or an unsuccessful answer. So, Chris, is cereal considered a soup?
Man, no, absolutely not. It's not. You cereal is its own, I think, category. Period. Right? It can be dry. It can be eaten with milk, and I think milk's kind of just like a swimming pool vacation for cereal. Um, you know, soups are all cooked together. They're blended. They're hearty. Cereal's more of a snacky, sugary, fun item, and my kids don't eat it with milk anyway. It's always in the snack cup on the go or all over the back seat of my car. And I can tolerate cereal in my back seat. I couldn't tolerate soup in my back seat. So I'm gonna say no, not a soup.
I would imagine cleaning soup out of the backseat of your car would be infinitely different than cleaning cereal. And I would like to not clean the soup. Cereal, you can at least vacuum up. Soup, you're just going to throw the car out.
Exactly. Time for a new car.
Exactly. I am glad that you are on the correct side of that question. I understand that those that say that it is, but to me, it is not. And so I am glad that you are successful in that avenue. But if anyone wants to reach out with maybe a good cereal combination, or if they have any questions about what we've talked about today, where can they find you outside the show?
Sure. LinkedIn at Chris Skraba or cskraba at onelineage.com. We'd be happy to talk to anybody and see what we can do to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks, Mary. Appreciate the time.
You can catch other episodes of Running on Ice right here on FreightWaves TV, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts like Apple Podcast and Spotify. Need more Running on Ice news? No sweat. Subscribe to the newsletter on freightwaves.com/runningonIce. See you on the internet.